What did you see work last year that hadn't worked in past years?
Saquon Barkley. but
The Dissection with Erin Mulligan.
So let's talk about this year's Giants. Some pretty good draft picks. We've got guys like Andrew Thomas, Xavier McKinney. What
Mhm.
were your thoughts on the picks?
Thomas, very good tackle. I think he's going to do a good job. Hopefully, it's a little different this year with the COVID, with no one being able to practice. But once he gets in and gets the scheme down, and it's a new scheme, he's like everyone else. He's coming in and learning it together. I think that's going to be great for him. McKinney, of course, love the kid from Alabama. I think he's one of the top safeties that came out this year. I think he's going to be, a starter in the league for a long, long time. He's smart. He's durable. He has great ball skills, which means when the ball's in the air, he's able to track it and put himself in the right position to either knock it down, sometimes intercept it, or make sure the guy doesn't catch it. So having those kind of abilities, being a big guy and can run like that, that's going to take him a long way.
Right. So looking at the team as a whole, what were some of the biggest problems that you've seen in the past couple of years? What do you hope to see fixed this year?
Well, football is very unique. It's not, you can't have everybody at once. Like you might get a group of guys like when they had Justin Tuck and Strahan and Human Yor and those guys. They had 4 or 5 defensive linemen that made them so good that they could go win a Super Bowl.
Hmm.
Eli was dragging the offense along, but the defensive line was excellent. And you had guys that were multiple Pro Bowls year in, year out. When those guys get old and leave the team, it's hard to replace them. The offensive linemen don't grow on trees. They are specific, very athletic, very big guys. They're tough guys, but very big guys that can move. They're very gifted. You got to get 5 of them, and to find 5 of them, and you got to think about this. Like your team is made up from guys from their mid to late 30s to guys in their early 20s. Trying to find 5 guys that are going to play together for more than 5 years is almost impossible. So them building a team, trying to find draft picks specifically that you can draft and can be on your team. If you can find 5 guys that you drafted or 3 guys you drafted and two free agents to fit into some of these positions where they can play collectively, that will help them. They don't have a collective group, and they haven't had a collective group for a long time that have played together.
Right. So obviously last season wasn't a stellar season, but
Mhm.
certain things, certain plays clicked and worked. What did you see work last year that hadn't worked in past years?
Saquon Barkley, but it's different when you have like a dynamic runner like Saquon. It is hard to he covers up a lot of the blemishes from a offensive standpoint. He
Mhm.
makes the offensive linemen look better. He makes the quarterback look better. He makes the receivers look better. The thing that they were missing was a home run hitter. They got it in Slayton, I believe. I think that his relationship in the passing game with Daniel Jones is going to start to show. He's got a lot of speed. He can catch the ball. He can get behind guys. A guy that can take the top off of a defense, as they say, make everybody have to turn around to chase him. That makes a big difference from an offense standpoint. Defensively, they got to figure out their secondary, and they have to get a pass rush, a
Mhm.
consistent pass rush. They need like 2 guys with at least 10 sacks each. Everybody else can fit in, but you got to have guys that have a guy that's a 10, 12, 14 sack guy, another guy that's a 10 sack guy. Then they got 5s and the 8s all through the defense. You get it up around 30 sacks, 40 sacks, 50 sacks. You're harassing the other quarterback. You're putting them in bad situations. It makes your team play better. And the only way to do that is when the quarterback looks up, there's going to be some tight coverage out there. And when they can figure that out, they'll play better.
Okay, sounds good.
But that's everybody. That's not just the Giants.
That's true. So it's a new year and a new coach. There has been a couple new coaches within the past couple years. Looking at
Mhm.
Joe Judge's past and his experience, personally, I feel hopeful, really optimistic about him. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on him? What do you hope to see from him?
Well, everything now seems to be about either you're this like Joe, this young up and coming guy who's dynamic and everyone's excited to hear from you, or you're some guy who's in a retread. Joe has the advantage of kind of being a little bit of two parts of that. He is a young up and coming guy. He's one of the youngest coaches in the NFL right now, so that's exciting. So he's got that almost fire and brimstone of the older guy, but he's a young guy. The other thing is his tutelage came from Coach Saban in Alabama, which is we know is a pretty decent coach, and then Coach Belichick with New England, who's also a pretty decent coach. So you get two of the best coaches in college and pro football as the guys that are your mentors, and they speak highly of you and they believe in you. That gives everyone hope that this guy's going to be the guy that's going to turn things around.
Right. So before I get into some fun questions, I wanted to ask you, how do you think COVID protocols and just, the whole pandemic in general might affect the season and is affecting the players?
I don't think we really know. I'm not Dr. Fauci, and I want to make sure that that's clear. But I don't think people of all ages don't really. It's not a political thing, and I don't think that people realize that. I think there's a lot of politics being pushed around with COVID, and that's going to affect the seasons. If we would have started out with, hey, we're going to lock the country down, and there's going to be nobody doing anything for at least 3 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, but at least 3 weeks, we would have had a better handle on what's happening today. And that's just looking at other countries and how they did it. That's what they had to do. We don't. Our country's more of like 50 individual countries instead of like one United States, because everybody has their political view and they think that, hey, it's really not affecting us. When it affected New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, kind of in California, it's because the people who had COVID were coming into the country to visit and doing a tourism in those spots.
Mhm.
The rest of the country didn't really see it, so they didn't think it was a big deal. Now that it's warm, the places people go for vacations to hang out, they're seeing it. So that's all of that's affecting football.
Right.
When Florida has COVID at a high rate, that's the Dolphins, that's Tampa Bay, that's Jacksonville. That's three teams that are affected by COVID. When Texas has high COVID rates, that's the Cowboys, that's the Houston Texans. Like that's affecting football. California, their rates are rising. That's almost three teams that it's affecting. So
Right.
we have to be mindful of that. How are they going to get around it? You know, I don't know. You can go home and it's not the same. Like college kids and basically the coaches and the staff. Professional teams are the players, the staff, and their families.
Right.
You may have a son that's like 10 years old, that's going to school, comes in contact with a kid that has COVID, brings COVID home, gives it to you. You come back and give it to whoever. In college, they can kind of almost isolate you, and
Right.
you can start isolating yourselves. As a professional, you got to figure it out. And how many guys that are having, God bless young kids who are just having babies, how do they feel about being around COVID and being that's I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I was a player in this moment. I don't know what the pressures would be. And I hear a lot of broadcasters, we have to do it. I'm like, that's pretty funny. You're saying we have to do it, but in your studio, you guys are 6 feet apart and everybody's wearing a mask and gloves.
Right.
But you want guys to run into each other. That's cute. So I think I think that's what's affecting it. I think if some way somehow they can really shut those states down for the next 3 weeks, I think they would go off without a problem. I think if the rates keep jumping and growing, and as they say, that curve keeps going up and we keep on the incline, I'm not really sure what they can do, because I think the states and municipalities will shut down. And if they say the state of Florida finally comes around and says, hey, look, we got to shut the state down for the month of September, then there's no football. If
Right.
Texas says we have to shut down for the month of September, there's no football.
Right.
And I think the NFL has a great game plan, but their game plan does not include any government.
Right. There's just a lot of unknown. Do you
Yeah.
think they might, follow in baseball steps and not have any fans?
I think football is the most, I think, probable or the easiest game to watch without fans. I think football is a lot like if you've been watching soccer. They are able to do it without fans, and it's they play it at a high rate. There's nobody there, but you don't get the cheers and the screams and the adulation, but you do get the competition.
Right.
Are they going to do it? I don't know.
Okay. I know your daughter's going to Alabama, your son's going to Notre Dame.
Mhm.
How's your son dealing with this and college football?
He was really excited for this year, and then all this stuff happened. He is still trying to figure out. Like it's hard to tell an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, hey, you got to be careful around your friends. Don't say, oh, I'm being careful, but they're going to be around each other. They're teammates. That's what teammates do. But I am hoping and praying that no one catches it, and that the teammates are following protocol.
Right.
That's gonna be the big thing. Protocol doesn't mean like I'm not. You don't go to Florida or something. It's like okay, so my girlfriend just came back to school, and my girlfriend's from Florida. My girlfriend's from Texas. Don't go see her for 2 weeks. Like, give it a moment. Like, if you run right over to see her, then you come back to practice. Like, how you doing? I'm doing great. I feel good. And all of a sudden, you run it into the team.
Right.
That's what I'm worried about for him. For my daughter, I'm more worried about Alabama's like one of the hotbeds right now,
Mhm.
COVID. So and a lot of students come up from Florida and over from Texas and from California. They all wind up at Alabama, so it's a little dicey right now.
Right. My family loves Notre Dame. I go to Monmouth University, but I love Notre Dame, so I'm hoping for the best.
Mhm.
So, some
Yeah.
fun questions for you. Why you live in New Jersey, correct?
Yes, I know.
Why did you choose to stay here, and what do you love most about living here?
I'm here because I got married, of course, but I got married. I had kids. Uh, Once I got married and had kids, I wanted my kids to be kind of in a school system, get used to growing up, try to get them through high school, and make sure they had as many advantages as possible. I think if you have to move, it makes you stronger. You're more adaptable. All those things are great, but a lot of kids don't want to move. Like kids don't understand when they have to move sometimes and have to go from state to state and travel around. Military kids can be really, really good or just really, really lost. So, and some kids they gain a lot from the cultures. So, kids travel the globe a lot and stay in different countries and live in different countries. They have great experiences, but I'm a homebody. I'm from one place, so I think that helps kids too, having a strong base and somewhere to start and can plant a flag.
Sounds good. So who's your favorite player of all time?
Of all time, NFL player, favorite player of all time. It would either be like LT or Phil Simms on the Giants, and then it would be probably a guy like a Reggie White because of who he was and everything. He was a phenomenal, phenomenal person as well as a player. Daryl Green, another great guy, a good friend as well. So I like those guys. They're a lot of fun.
I do too. Who's your favorite player you ever played with?
Oh, that the favorite player I ever played with, like that's all of them. I enjoyed all of them. From the tight end pool, like Bavaro and I spent a lot of time together. We're still good buddies. Their running back, Otis Anderson and Stephen Baker, I see them all the time. Lawrence Taylor, Carl Banks, I see them all the time. See some of the linemen, Big B Dub, and it's like we're around each other all the time. That's like not a real favorite. We just see each other and hang out. It's like every time we see each other, it's like we haven't we're still in the locker room almost. Hey, what's going on? And it's good to see our kids growing up and seeing where everybody's kids are going off and going to college, and some of them are getting married. It's just it's fun. It's a different stage of life, so it's great to be around the guys and that they're all healthy and we play a little golf and brag and laugh and tell lies. We're just having a good time.
In your opinion, who's the most overrated player ever?
Overrated player. Uh, I have no idea.
Mm.
I overrated. That's. I think that anybody. I think the misconception is that overrated is like you think they're making too much or they're getting too much. Like I hear a lot of announcers used to beat on Eli all the time. Eli's like he's in the top 5 passers in history or something like that, touchdowns and won 2 Super Bowls. Like, how's that guy overrated? So like overrated is just the opinion of if you like someone, if you don't like someone. I think that there are so few jobs in the NFL as players. If you get in and you can stay and you can stick with it, there's no such thing as overrated. You earned your spot.
Good point.
Mhm.
Do you think there's anyone who's the most underrated?
Underrated, undervalued players in the NFL. I have no idea. Again, I think the players you see that are making plays and doing that. There'll be guys that you don't know their names that are going to make plays. Like Dalvin Tomlinson, the D tackle that plays with the Giants. He makes a lot of plays, but no one knows his name because he's a D tackle. You know, Hernandez, the offensive
Yeah.
guard. You kind of know his name, but you don't really know what he's doing unless he makes a mistake. So I think the offense and defensive line, especially interior defensive linemen, because they're not getting sacks, they're not getting beat up and holding people off the linebackers. They'll be the players that most fans don't know that much about.
And lastly, what has been your funniest memory?
Funniest? Oh my goodness. There so many things that have been funny and hilarious. I think learning to play golf was probably my funniest thing because I just assumed it was like this really easy, uh, ridiculous sport that like old men played. And then when I went out to play it, I couldn't hit the ball, I couldn't do anything, and I'm like, I got everybody's trying to explain it to me. I said, I'm just gonna play basketball. They're like, you're not gonna be able to play basketball your entire life. You got to learn to play golf. Like I will never play golf. I play it anytime I can now. And if I can get out, I'll go out. I'll just go out and chip and putt. I enjoy it. I love it. So the transition from being like a basketball player, taking martial arts, karate, kung fu, all that crazy stuff, and from that to like I want to go play golf. that's that. I think that's the biggest transition, and that's the funniest thing in my life. If I had to look back to a younger me today,
How about during your career? What was the funny memory?
funniest moment in my career. Oh, just watching these guys. Like I was definitely a non-participant in this, but watching all the practical jokes that these guys pulled on each other. You would come out and guys would have their cars on blocks or their car would be moved. They'd come out and they'd not have anything in their locker, or they put blue, the dye that you hear about in banks they have on the money that if you steal it, it blows up. They would put that in guys' jocks, everything. It was just they would do anything and everything to each other. I think the worst thing I ever heard was somebody put fish on. They opened their hood of the car and put the fish on the motor. So the guy's driving and his car just starts to stink and he can't figure out what it is. So it's hilarious. That's why it's like, do not if someone tries to pull a prank on you, just roll with it, laugh, and move on. Because if you don't react to it, they'll leave you alone. You react and try to get back at them, then it becomes this horrible prank game that just goes on and on and on. And these guys, they had a lot of time in training camp to pull pranks on each other.
So just to end this time, is there anything else you'd like to say to fans or about the upcoming football season?
Yeah, we'll just hope and pray that we can kind of, as a country, kind of pull together, get, right the ship, so to speak, and figure out a way to hopefully save a lot of lives. And we can't really stop the coronavirus. We kind of keep, as they say, keep the curve down and flatten the line. If we can do that, then we can have some football, baseball, basketball, whatever. But until we do that, I think the most important thing is for the country to wear a mask, be safe, and take care of each other.
Sounds good. Well, I really appreciate you, allowing me to interview today. It was an honor speaking to you, so thank you so much.
All right, you have a good one.
You too.